It is now 6 o'clock, so I will call to order the August 25th, 2014 meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. Please note the meeting is being recorded. First item, are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? All right, being none, we'll move on to public hearings and meetings. Continuation of the public hearing for a notice of intent filed by Phragmites Conservation Trust for Brickyard Brook Conservation Area, Mass DEP file number 151280.
Okay, good evening. My name is Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys, and we are working with Bill Cannon and the Phragmites Conservation Trust on this revisions to the proposed NOI filing that was previously submitted to the commission. And I have 2 hard copies of the documentation.
But is this something you could forward as a PDF after
I
the
did.
fact? Oh, you did?
I did, so you should
Okay.
have it in your Easthampton Conservation
Okay.
Word file. I just did it like 5 o'clock.
That's why.
That's right.
That's fine, thank you.
We were down to the wire on that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That never happens.
I
Yeah,
know.
never,
I don't know how to, I can't relate at all.
never happens.
No, right, never happens.
Okay.
So you should have.
Okay, perfect, thank
So,
you.
what we've done is, as we had discussed with the Conservation Commission before, is reduce the scope of the work being proposed. To just focus in on this crossing of Brickyard Brook and the repairs due to a pretty significant washout that's within the roadway itself. The other improvements are not going to be part of this notice of intent filing for the project in itself. Just going to focus in on this area. So with that, we have revised the set of plans, L1.0, L2.0 and 3.0, to show what is actually being proposed on this notice of intent filing. This is the end of East Green Street, which is a cul-de-sac. Excuse me. And currently, there is a woods road that accesses the large parcel of land that the trust owns. And it goes all the way to East Street, over this end here.
Yep.
So, within this area, historically, the previous owners have installed 2 12-inch reinforced concrete pipes within the stream channel of the brook itself. And then it goes into 2 15-inch RCP pipes that cross underneath the roadway itself. This is an elevated section of it being here. And in talking with Tim McKenna from DEP, who has reviewed it on behalf of DEP, there was some questions about the need for a 401 water quality permit. And in my conversations with him, if we were to restore the stream channel, then we would not need a complete 401 water quality permit. So he too has a set of these plans and documentation that I submitted to you tonight.
So who did you talk to again at?
Tim McKenna, DEP. So there's 2 aspects of the project that we're proposing. One is to remove the existing culvert pipes that are within the stream channel and restore the stream channel, basically in this area of green. And then in doing so, on either side of the channel, restore the wetlands that will be altered temporarily during the removal of these 2 pipes. And I have some pictures that I can pass out too for the commission members to do it. In order to do that, we need to install a stone head wall, which there's a detail of that stone head wall right in here, which is outside of the resource area that parallels the woods road in here to allow, here's the the dash lines are the existing 15-inch pipes that would be removed. And then this is the approximate location of the 15-inch culvert pipes underneath the elevated crossing for the Woods Road. The elevation is up at approximately 10, let's see, 10, about 12 feet above the culverts that go underneath, so about 12-foot elevated section as it comes down into the property itself. For that. We've also shown an area for stockpiling of, temporary stockpilings of soils and erosion control, being silt fence to be installed around the work area to protect that from any erosion from those temporary stockpile areas to get into the resource area. The other issue that is that East Green Street doesn't have any drainage in it, and I see Jim's here. So currently, all the sheet flow from East Green Street just floods down this area, and that's some of the major problem with this erosion that occurred on the site itself was the stormwater came down and eroded this area and washed this all out, and took all this soils that were in this area and deposited it into the wetlands and plugged up the pipes and backed up the brook, made a mess. So with that, part of this project is to install a riprap drainage swale in this area here to control the runoff from East Green Street, slow it down, and to help with water quality, to clean the water before it gets down into the resource area, in the brook itself. Small section of it would be paved right at the end of East Green Street to facilitate easier maintenance for the town and everyone to be able to do that. And then starting at the property line, it would be riprap down to just shy of the wetland boundary, about 2 feet from the wetland boundary with that. Also, there are some plantings that will be done along this area and a fence to demarcate what is the abutters property being here and what is owned by the trust as part of the trust property through here. So on this sheet, we have a cross-sectional detail of how the contractor would install, one, removing the culvert pipes, put a coffer dam in. If there is any flow, we're recommending that the work to be done during low or no flow periods. But as we all know, we do, even during that time of year, we do get flash rains. So they put in a coffer dam so that they can work to remove that in there. And then in order to install the stone retaining wall, as shown in the detail here.
Where's this retaining wall on plan?
Right here.
It's the
Okay.
head,
The head wall for
the upstream side.
Yeah, so currently the flow
Yep,
Goes-
I hear you.
goes northerly.
I get it, so, okay, I'm with you now.
So he didn't want to just do a steep slope of riprap because of the grading for one and work outside the resource area. But two, during heavy storm events, we do get a lot of stormwater coming down and to maintain the integrity of this crossing so it doesn't wash out again, to stabilize it permanently.
So the two 15-inch culverts being replaced with the same size then?
No, we're not touching these sections of the pipe at all. They're fine. There's nothing
Okay.
some with them.
It's just removing the upstream section?
Just the upstream section.
Gotcha.
And you can see, I'll pass around some pictures that you can see some of this. There's a lot of vegetation there, but you can see how when he installed it, he didn't really do it properly. Just kind of laid it in the stream bed, didn't mortar the joints up, just and there's no cover over the pipes, so freeze-thaw, all the joints are splitting apart. And,
That was to come later.
to be So the third sheet is just some details on erosion control, barriers, silt fence, the cedar fence that's gonna run along the boundary line, the channel that comes from East Green Street detail for the riprap channel, the surface schedules, concrete cap if we need it. And we kind of anticipate if there is any problems with this existing pipe in this section, we're requiring the contractor to dig back about 8 to 10 feet and look at the pipe to make sure its integrity, the integrity of the pipe is still there. If there is an issue with it, we'll put a concrete cap over it so that once this work is done.
Concrete cap over it, explain that.
So concrete cap would be over the pipe. So if there was a problem with, from the head wall northerly, okay, we would pour concrete over the top of it to fix it. For instance, if the pipe had rotted out or the joint had come apart and there's holes in the pipe, we don't know what shape the pipe is. It's kind of hard because we haven't gone through the pipe or cambered the pipe to make sure that it's good and secure and solid.
Is it one single piece that goes all the way through?
Well,
Or is it
no,
segments?
RCP pipe comes in.
It's in segments
eight-
also.
Yeah, in 8 foot sections. So every 8 feet, there's a joint, a bell and spigot.
So that would cover us if you, yeah, in case the contractor has some, and cover some issues there, then we've given them some direction here in what to do to kind of reinforce that pipe or to repair any degradation in that reinforced concrete pipe that he may encounter.
And so that's the upstream half that they would do that to, or kind of the?
Yes, yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you say you thought the downstream half was in better shape than the
Yeah,
upstream
and I
half?
got some pictures, and it appears that the downstream side is fine, in great shape.
Okay.
There's a typical section or detail showing the stream channel regrading and how that's going to be done. On the plan, there's a cofferdam detail and the wetland replacement detail that's on there. Let me show you some pictures that I got of the area.
The riprap swale, is that going to be vegetated at all, or just going to be riprap?
Riprap.
And the swale's on the land trust property?
Yes. Yes,
Right.
So the top picture here, and this is the culverts. You can see how they're all exposed, and so there's one pipe here, there's one pipe here, and they're all eroded, and there's just muck around them. This is a better picture. There's probably only 6 inches of
Oh, I see.
silt over them. And it's a little better picture there. And here's another one that shows it from a little wider view.
And then that's the
And that's
failed
the,
embankment.
yeah, that's the failed embankment. This one's just another.
Picture's worth
one.
1,000 words.
Yeah.
Oh, and several of us were out there
Yeah, we were there once.
earlier
Yeah.
Just another
in
picture
the
of that.
process.
Mhm. So this last picture is the
Yeah,
outfall.
like that.
That's a big
And
piece
it's-
of ivy.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. It's all over the place.
You can see
Yeah.
that it's what, these are typical outfall pipes, they're tapered, they're riprap, they're built properly, And that last picture that I'm passing around now is here.
Okay.
So that's where it discharges to the brook again on the
Yeah.
north side.
Can you?
So that's why we feel that, this sections of pipes are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the resource area delineations are, is the red lines? Is
Correct.
it- The resource, so you're staying outside of the resource area because you're upstream
Correct. Right, we're staying outside of the
or
resource
downstream, I
area.
should say.
With the head wall.
Correct,
And the stream restoration is occurring within that footprint.
correct.
So
Gotcha.
So request number one to facilitate the process on our end would be to provide quantities, quantify the impacts to the resource areas proper.
Okay.
I mean, there's less than 40 feet noted on the original NOI form. If it's here
Right.
and I haven't seen it, then
I did not do that.
Okay.
I did figure out what that green area is.
Okay.
It's 271 and a half square, around that, 271 square feet, plus or minus, of area that's highlighted in that green area that we need to kind of
But
work
this is
and
an
to restore.
intermittent stream?
So,
Are you
No, it's
saying
not.
it is, or you're asking?
It's perennial?
it's a perennial stream.
That's perennial? Okay, so we do have land underwater. Okay.
But so that's basically that's basically restoration work. The only like
Yeah.
impact is basically the footprint of the sandbags.
Correct.
Essentially.
Well,
And those are
they're-
gonna get removed too.
Are you're excavating,
Right.
you're removing the pipes, you're grading out, so there is work in
Well,
that
right.
area,
Yeah.
but it's,
That's
Just to
the
restore
intent
it.
of it is for restoration.
right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the intent of the pool.
Yeah.
Right.
And then-
And I think Mark, what we were talking about was that the material would be excavated about 12 inches of the vegetative material put aside and then installed once they get the basic shape of the stream channel.
So.
So we would
So
start
it'll be
inside.
it'll be
Right.
preserved to the side.
Correct.
Segregated, and then
Correct.
that'll be put back in, so
Correct.
we have that seed bank.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Take all the
I-
hydric soils that are removed, all the seed, the vegetation in that, and then reuse it in this area here to restore it.
And we'll probably have a better success rate by doing that. There will be some other, obviously, ancillary areas along the edge of the boulder wall that we will loam and seed.
Not in the resource area.
Right, outside the resource area, right.
Right.
How is equipment gonna get down there?
So there's two ways. Most of the equipment's gonna have to be worked from this side of the stream channel in itself. We're recommending that, a bobcat or a small excavator be used. It's within the documentations that we provide to you, which I haven't gone through yet, but you can look through that. But no heavy equipment will be allowed in the resource area whatsoever. It'll be done from this side of the property here.
Do you have to go on the abutter's property to reach
No.
some of that? No?
No, we don't. No, it's all owned by the trust.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's all owned by the trust. So basically, you're gonna come in here and work to remove the culvert, construct the head wall from this area, and then work your way back out to put the channel in, going back up towards East Green Street, and pave the area, so work your way away from the resource area through that. And we did a kind of a sequence, that's one of the things you had asked for last time.
Yes, thank you.
Within that, we did a sequence of the work, outlining how it's to be done. And that's part of the narrative that we submitted.
So, I'm sorry, tell me, this is a perennial stream? Per the regs? Because it doesn't, I'm only asking because I want to be sure, because it's not, this one isn't mapped. It's mapped intermittent over here, but it might stream sats out. Right, this is where we are.
Oh, you're right, this one particular section, can I see that
Yeah,
for a
please.
second?
I just want to make sure that
Right,
I don't want to start talking about riverfront area
correct.
for the swale if it's not appropriate, because, I mean, I think that's just buffer zone.
Right. I am mistaken on that, because this shows that the Brookyard Brook proper is
Yeah,
further up.
It's a lot farther northerly.
No.
No, to the.
Backyard?
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Under
right.
Green Street further
Yeah,
down.
right, further
Brookyard
east.
Brook proper is right at the entrance of, to St. Stanislaus
Church, behind the
Correct.
cemetery.
That's where we
Cemetery.
have.
Yeah. Right.
the NOI
And
for
there's about
tree
7
removal
different
on
streams
Spring
running
Street.
into it in that area.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Ah, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Mr. Bailey.
The bunch of tributary
Yes,
streams.
yeah, this is like the middle one that isn't mapped, right?
Right. Yeah, it kind of
Yeah.
shows topography-wise.
Yeah, I mean, it
Kinda tough to
definitely
show
shows
it
the
on there,
drainage.
yeah.
I just wanted to be
Right,
sure
yeah.
that I
No.
didn't go off
Yeah.
on a riverfront
No,
area
I-
related tangent.
I stand corrected.
What a good place to be for that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you talk about the restoration of adjacent areas and the seed mixes and,
Well, the restoration of the adjacent areas, okay? If it's in the resource area, we're gonna use the existing soils that we have in there, and along with the plant vegetation and hydric soils that
Okay.
are accommodating for that. As Bill mentioned, there will be some loam and seeding outside of the resource area, but, to restore any disturbed areas within this portion of it. Unfortunately, access you can't get, because this is flat wetland area, you know, you can't come with equipment over here and drive down to do the work, so.
maybe you have enough chairs?
So, so that's some of the loam and seeding that would be done within any disturbed areas. But we want to be able to use to save money, you know, what's on site itself. If we need to, we probably would use some wetland seed mix from New England Environmental Plant, if need be. But as you can see from these pictures, it's pretty well vegetated.
It is, and you're saying that whole green area is 271
Yeah.
and a half
Yes.
square feet.
Yes.
Yeah,
So I don't see it being,
yeah, it's not
I
a
don't see
huge,
it being worth how much seed.
right. We did this at a 10 scale because there's so much detail.
Yeah.
So it's a very enlarged plant, so you can see it, because it's, you know, so.
Yeah, the width of it's only like about 10 feet wide. I mean, you know,
Right.
as we've called for in the section for the channel to be 8 feet wide, and then 12-inch deep will give us another extra foot on either side for an embankment transition.
Okay.
So if this is a intermittent stream, is there any concern from us, I haven't seen the site yet, and I apologize, I need to go out there and see it, but of having any sort of backup plan if it does have a flash flood and there is storm that comes down, is there going to be a pump on site to
Yep.
pump around?
Correct. So within the narratives that we have provided, if there was a storm event and need be, dewatering would be done to an upgraded outside the resource area, discharge the water up into this portion of the property and let it flow around through the existing topography back down.
Back into this, okay.
Back into here.
Is there any,
So we're talking about discharging up to the upland area.
Does it make,
is,
go ahead. Does it make sense just to discharge it right on the other side of the, right back into the stream?
You can, but sometimes you get
Shorter distance?
shorter distance, you could do that, but sometimes you get some dirty water, you know, because of the construction.
Okay.
so you want
So
to
you-
infiltrate?
So you want to
wetlands?
infiltrate, so if there's any fines or mud,
Okay.
because you're sucking
That's
out
fair.
of, you know,
And you're gonna be, there, you expect, even though it's a smaller piece of equipment, you expect it to be going back and forth
right,
over that
right,
narrow, it's kind of been eroded into,
right.
so it's not like a full vehicle sweep anymore.
I got you.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of hard because it's so overgrown, but it's, yeah, it's very narrow.
Yeah, I can see the pictures.
You know, we anticipate that, and it's kind of heavy on it, time frame that be less than 3 weeks to do the work. We're hoping that, you know, depending on the contractor, you get somebody that's in there qualified and knows what they're doing, they could probably do it in a week or two. You know,
At least the work there in the green, that's highlighted in green,
yeah,
get all that set, get some of the boulder embankment started around the pipe, and then that boulder embankment will have to be built up as they build the grade up to match the roadway grade.
right,
Because it's, I call them for it to be battered, so that it has some structural integrity to it. And it's gonna rely on leaning against the soil. So you have to kind of build up the soil as you build up the boulder wall.
Are there,
I guess one question about the riprap swale. Did you happen to look at other alternatives to the stone, like turf reinforcement mat or something like that? That would just be less, stony, but still carry flows without eroding
Yeah.
things.
I did not. I know that, there's a good section of East Green Street that comes down to this area. So when you get a heavy storm event, you get a serious flow. So I really think that the riprap is the better material to use, but I did not look at.
Yeah. I was on vacation a month or two ago, and they're widening the New Jersey Turnpike, and so they used all the drainage swales now. They use the mesh
Yeah,
TRM
right.
stuff
Yeah,
every
I've
place
seen
instead
that.
of riprap and stuff like that. So
Right.
I was wondering.
Right. Well, the other issue with using that is that there is a steeper grade, coming down from East Green Street down. There is, let's see, this is contour 70, and up here on East Green Street, I think we have almost 8 feet difference coming up here.
Yeah, there's something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something, approximately there. And we got a short distance.
I mean, I fully anticipate that, we're gonna get some self-seeding to happen along that riprap too, and some vegetation is gonna kind of grow in with it. I've shown some planting that I think the way it goes is that the trust promised the abutter, their mother who the land was acquired from, to do some planting along that edge. And there may be an opportunity for the trust to kind of go in there and even sock in a few more plants and add some variety to it and everything else too, depending on the room that's available. But for right now, what we're suggesting is at least some broadleaf evergreens in there as an understory to the existing trees in that area.
so, sorry.
Go ahead.
Mentioning the existing trees, are the trees that are shown there north of the swale, are those to be removed, or will
Nope,
those
they're
remain?
gonna remain. We're gonna
Okay.
work around those.
Okay.
We're not
And-
proposing to take down any of the large species trees.
And as
There
a
are
matter of
some-
fact, that swale, we're gonna kind of work that riprap out so that it kind of goes around whatever trees that might be within the path. We want to kind of avoid taking any of that stuff down. And so the geometry of that swale may meander just a little bit to avoid any disturbance of larger trees. Yes, we probably will be cutting into some roots, but I think what we want to try to, the intent is to save all the trees in that area.
We may have to trim some of the lower branches to get,
Okay.
equipment in there. Get a mini excavator in there, he's gotta be able to pick up
Sure.
and move.
Yep.
So that, but yeah, we wanna keep them intact. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and it shows kind of in these pictures, is that these pipes that we're gonna remove, where they're all, because of the frost, they're all heaved up. And I think when this collapsed, we had a heavy rain event, so you had a heavy rain event within the brook itself flowing down. You had the storm water coming from East Green Street, and then the bank let
Big
go.
confluence.
And it, basically sealed the end of those pipes. And if you look at it, I think this whole lower section here was flooded. And in talking to Mary Ann, her last name,
Constantly?
no,
Oh, Mutter.
Butter, yeah, well, she was married.
Donate.
Donate, thank you.
Donate.
Mary Ann was going, yeah.
Donate, she can remember where this was flooded. So that, those pipes just got plugged up with soil, vegetation, debris, and just wouldn't work. So by doing this new wall system, it can be cleaned out and maintained. by the trust in the future, so hopefully that never happens again.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Have you done any sort of HydroCAD modeling or anything to determine if the pipe diameters are appropriate?
We did not do any modeling of the stream channel itself. I don't, looking at it, they've been in there for many years, but we did not do any modeling of the capacity of them. What I do know is that these are 12-inch pipes coming into it, and these are 15-inch coming out of it. So right there, you're taking a 12-inch pipe out of the mix, and we're gonna increase the size of both of them, because they're both 15-inch pipes. So you're gonna increase it by 3 inches in diameter for that.
I mean, some of those pictures, I think, that show that the pipe diameter, some of those pipes, they're half buried. There's all kinds of blockage and all kinds of debris in the front of those things, and I think Mark was alluding to the fact that they can't take in the water because of all the conditions out there.
Haven't been maintained, right? So maintenance will be required, I imagine.
Correct, yep. Ongoing
Just to
maintenance
make sure
would
they
be
work.
required to make sure that those pipes are clean and breathe.
Yeah, it would stink to do all the work and then have it fail again,
Correct,
you know,
Right.
because the pipes weren't big enough
correct.
or maintained.
Well, it's just what the Piscataway Conservation Trust loves, is maintaining properties.
Are there any other questions from the board?
So this riprap detail, the stone riprap, is at the road and then it
Correct.
transitions to this for the swale.
Correct.
Right, correct.
Okay. Got it.
Yes, and then these are, large boulders that will make up this wall system.
Yep.
I'm good. If those 15-inch pipes are in good shape, this is a good solution.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all right. There not being any questions from the board at this point, I'll open it to the public. Are there any questions, comments, concerns relative to the Wetlands Protection Act regarding this project? Okay,
Not that section, the other
Right.
section.
right, that's a separate topic.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. So, with that said, would anyone care to propose a motion?
This is an NOI, so we have
We would have motions.
conditions.
So just for discussion's sake, we've got a pretty decent laundry list of standard conditions: pre-construction meeting, pre-construction notification, nomination of a dedicated environmental monitor during the work, weekly updates with photos. Mark is familiar with a formal format, which is very helpful to the commission. Summary email with photos attached would be sufficient while the work is occurring. Things of that nature. I'm also thinking as a pre-construction submittal, a culvert maintenance plan, but not before we move on from this point. Does anyone else have any suggestions?
Just the 48-hour notice
48 hours.
of erosion barriers.
Culvert maintenance plan.
One other thing I was thinking is just to mark the trees that are to be preserved, just so it's very clear to both the commission and whoever contractor it's brought on board is that they're not.
We'll do that for the pre-construction meeting?
Preferably, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just so that they're not taken down for convenience sake when no one's around to
I don't
suggest
think so.
otherwise.
It's not gonna happen. Yeah.
I imagine this will be well monitored.
Oh.
But those are all I have on the top of my head. So would anyone?
So standard commission conditions, the culvert maintenance plan, and applicant to mark the trees that'll be preserved.
Mhm.
Sounds good to me.
And Karen, motion?
So I'll move to issue an order of conditions, conditions we just discussed.
Can you give a second? to the
I'll
motion?
second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. We'll have your paperwork by the next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. We appreciate your patience, by the way.
And Joanne?
We know it's been a little bit drawn out and everything else, but
Thank you for the revised information.
Okay. You can keep those pictures if you like, put in the file. That would be fine.
Okay, and when were these taken roughly?
That's a good question. They're not this year.
Okay,
I think it was like 2 years ago.
I think it was like 2 years ago. And, the erosion happened at least 2 years plus ago.
that's fine. I just want to have some
Yep.
time frame of reference on there.
2012, yeah, would be
Okay.
a pretty good location.
So do you have a different copy?
I have
You have
a
a
separate copy.
Okay.
So I'll,
So we don't need
I'll
this one?
just hold on to that.
Yeah.
yeah, please,
So we don't
Jay,
have to dig
because
through the
you're gonna
file.
need that anyway.
Before
Um,
anyone leaves, if this is the only thing you're coming to, please make sure you sign the sign-in sheet. We need to have a record of who's here.
Okay, so with that being taken care of,
There should be a pen attached to it, is there not?
there
Oh, there's
was.
one right in there.
Yep, it's there.
Alright, so let's move on.
Thank you.
Next item, request for partial certificate of are you waiting, Andrew? I'm sorry, so I saw a motion. Oh, okay. Request for partial certificate of compliance, Mass DEP file number 151229, EH Home Ownership LLC, Caribbean Communities LLC for lots 10 and 11 on Button Road, numbers 18 and 20 Button Road. This is in the treehouse area. Did anyone else drive by?
I went out there
You did too?
Friday morning,
Okay,
yes.
great. I have no questions, comments, concerns.
No concerns, I mean, there's grass growing, it's not completely, complete filled in, those markers are there.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them, I can see most of them, some were in the bushes.
Right, which is good.
Right.
It's a good way to have it. So, I'm satisfied. Are you, Joe?
Yep.
All right. So, would anyone care to,
I'll
make a
I'll make a motion that we issue the partial certificate of compliance for 8 Button Road and 20 Button Road.
Second?
18 Button Road?
18 and 20.
You said 8, sorry.
Okay.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
So you send those to Ann?
Yes. It's a single document.
Yep.
So, and she asked that I send the original to Darcy.
Yep, to Darcy. Good.
So,
Thank you.
I can.
Yep, no, that's fine. And they can record it and I can look at it after it gets
Yes.
recorded.
Exactly. All right, I'm gonna start that at the far end and
Good.
we'll take care of that.
Good.
Thanks, guys.
Before I leave, any other
Is there anything
Anything we want
else?
to talk about?
compliance
Easthampton
issues
Savings Bank
with,
or?
Bank or Paul Street?
I'm all set with it.
I don't have any questions.
I didn't have any comments after reading
Is there anything new?
No?
Okay.
It's holding a little water, but it's much better than it was.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and, unfortunately, the amount of times that, the amount of water that was in there and the work that needed to be done is really smeared up the bottom. It's heavy, silty clay soils throughout that whole area. And the cattails will be there next year,
Because
again, so.
that's part of the maintenance plan, right?
Right, exactly, so.
Is that a pump chamber on the new structure at Paul Street that's ready to go in or something?
Yes, yeah, that's for the sewer,
Okay,
connect to the city sewer system.
gotcha. And is the erosion silt fence thing behind that is all taken care of?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's all been repaired and fixed. Mr. Garcia put up additional silt fence lines through there. And it was the top erosion control barrier that breached by that little bit of 5 feet or so.
Mhm.
So he went above and beyond and put extra erosion control barriers in. And so than what was originally called for, to make sure that he didn't have a problem, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you both for
Thank
coming
you very-
tonight.
Yep. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, we have no emergency certifications. Moving on to enforcement order status updates. First item, 37 South Street, enforcement order 2013-001. On Saturday, the 23rd at 10 a.m., Jay Ryan, Ashley Krause, and myself met at 37 South Street. We were not met by the owner or his representatives. They received letters by certified mail beginning of last week. And we conducted just a quick site visit of the general areas that were subject to restoration, focusing on areas 3A and 3B, the riverfront area mitigation, pieces up by the structure that was constructed partially within riverfront area. Jay has the site plan. So the burning bushes were removed, the vehicles that had been stored there have been removed, and a number of native woody species saplings have been installed. The exact number was not determined. It's pretty overgrown, but there are also at least 2 non-native invasive species that have made their presence within the footprint of the restoration area, and it is part of their approved plan to manage for those. So I drafted a letter summarizing the site visit, just informing them that we did conduct the site visit we said we were going to conduct, that we noticed these steps toward compliance, but that we noticed these actions that need to be, or corrective actions that need to be taken, and asking them to advise us of their implementation schedule.
So I'm good with the letter.
You're good with the letter?
Yep.
Okay. That way I'll, yeah, let you.
Okay, so I'm summarizing the site visit and noting corrective actions that,
Necessary corrective actions regarding non-native and invasive species within the footprint of restoration area 3A and 3B. Did you get them all?
Good.
letter was drafted to the owner summarizing the site visit and noting the corrective actions required regarding the non-native invasive species located in area 3A and or 3B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For the record, I noticed what the 2 species that I saw clearly are Japanese knotweed and what is most likely black locust.
Black locust.
Yeah.
Did we give him a time frame to mitigate these actions?
He has a compliance report due in October. So maybe should add that action should be implemented and documented prior to the 2014 compliance report.
Which is due on.
I'll have to look it up.
I believe it was October 1.
Is that right, Jay?
Yeah, I was looking for it. I had it around the site visit. October 1.
Okay, thank you. So I'll update that.
Commission notes, actions. Should be in the complete 2014. All right.
Okay. So the next item, status update. Mr. Eagle's property at 67 Laville Road, enforcement order 2013-004. Everything is satisfactory.
It's the
shed
same
is-
site visit? Same date?
10:30.
Yeah,
Same date,
same day.
10:30.
Okay.
Same people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Did applicant meet with site?
no,
All right.
the shed has been removed. Native woody species have been installed as discussed. And he has that the area is mulched with wood chips, and he has that vegetable garden outside the 25-foot buffer
Okay.
going. So I'm satisfied that he's complied with the enforcement order and that I would be satisfied with just closing the file.
I agree.
Sounds good.
Someone make a motion? Not even sure if we should, but we should.
I move that we close the enforcement order, the
67.
Yeah, EO 2003-004, 2013-004, 67 Lavelle Road.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Right.
Right.
So moved. Okay, so that will come off the agenda. Okay.
It's WC size 6 font for the agenda.
Seriously, that's a 0 space in between lines.
It's like
one
3.
giant like black smudge pretty soon.
Oh, yeah, you guys are funny. Okay. Moving on to compliance updates. Active projects, open permits, City of Easthampton Fish Ladder, Mass DEP file number 151261.
Anything left on that?
Isn't there? Oh, I'm not talking about this, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
we can't talk about
Oh,
this.
is there anything left on the fish ladder that has?
Yeah, they got one little punch list item, there's a little rust underneath the video cave cover,
Nice.
and that's it.
Okay.
That's the only thing that's left.
Okay.
So, and then you will actually submit the certificate of compliance after that, or?
Yeah, we can. That's just closing out the contractor's contract.
Yeah.
That's all that's left. Other than manipulating the ladder itself, changing the baffles, switching the flow over, things of that nature.
Right.
That's part of the operation of the actual ladder.
So you'll continue to work with the engineer to submit the certificate of compliance once the project's complete. Okay, so make sure the minutes are correct. Right.
Okay, actually, question. Is there still a conflict of interest for Dan and myself? Is there still any tie and bond involvement, or
Technically, yeah.
technically, okay.
Till their
Just-
certificate is filed.
Right.
Okay, just wanted to make
We
sure.
close the contract.
Okay. Next item, Paul Street Extension, Julian Estates, DEP file number 151269. We discussed that, there are no updates,
Mhm.
no problems. Easthampton Savings Bank, DEP file number 151274, already discussed, no
Mhm.
other updates. Pleasant Street Mills, Jess isn't here. I know they were trying to get stuff to stabilize.
It's in much better shape than it
Okay.
was previously. I was out there this afternoon, and there's only a couple little areas, but things are growing,
Okay.
so it's
Yeah,
in pretty good
He's
shape.
been pretty responsive as far as fixing washouts and things of that nature.
Okay.
They did make a little pathway so people can walk through it instead of stepping over and riding their bikes over the protection, so
Yeah.
That's good.
that's helping.
Okay, next item, Glendale, Leadville, West Pomeroy Meadow intersection and roadway reconstruction, DP file number 151271. Jay and I met on site with Jim, representatives from Carrera, the contractor, New England Environmental, and who else? Mass DOT
Yes.
on Thursday, the 21st.
Yep.
At 7:30 in the morning. Where the city had proposed and we
I'm
could,
sorry?
Thursday, August 21st, 7:30 a.m. Where we had approved the 33 square feet of BDW replication, so that Jim didn't have to go through 401. There's adjacent to that, and kind of encroaching upon it, is a good-sized stand of Phragmites. So they wanted to talk to us about what to do. And so the options are kind of manage the Phragmites so that it doesn't overtake the replication area, or move the replication area.
Which one? Are you-
And if anyone calls it's a long, narrow replication area adjacent to the existing wetland. So what we talked about and what we received documentation about was conducting a foliar herbicide application with a glyphosate called rodeo. It's common. And treating the Phragmites
That's the
beyond
original report that had.
beyond the limits of the replication area to keep it from encroaching upon it. And then,
This is this. Want to see it?
monitoring it and determining whether or not that treatment was successful enough to seed that area.
Not on any of those plans.
No, those
Oh,
plans were from the
okay.
amended
Yeah,
order.
just for discussion.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
So,
Um,
um,
is there like a schedule to monitor it, like a time frame, or?
I believe that was in the original documentation, but we could go back and check that. So, we met with Scott Fisher of New England Environmental, and he is one of apparently several licensed herbicide applicators, pesticide applicators, who would be working on it. I got the impression that it's all pretty much under his direction. And then I also asked for our files, the MSDS for rodeo for glyphosate. Just so that we have that if anyone's curious. And this was forwarded electronically. So based on the scale and nature of what's proposed, I don't consider this to be a significant deviation from the original plan. Does anyone else have any thoughts, concerns about them moving forward with this? Okay.
My only question for that is if you're gonna allow the herbicide, are they gonna have to reuse it again next year?
It depends on how successful it is.
Okay.
Um,
If he does have to,
If
does
he-
he have to come back to the commission?
I would think he will need to inform us of his intentions,
Okay.
but he can do that by written
So it
correspondence.
doesn't need permission more than just notification?
Just notification,
Okay.
that's what they do, along with like Route 91, they do that.
Yeah.
And Route 5, they do that same thing along the railroad.
Mhm. And what is the schedule outlook for this project? Including the other restoration, mitigation area with the,
Well, we're hoping by Thanksgiving
okay,
to be done.
okay. Thank you.
He's
Then-
gotta maintain that for 2 years.
Yes.
Contractor does.
Sounds good. Are there any other questions about this project at the present?
No.
Well, actually, sorry, my brain. We did talk about the outlet along West Street, the stormwater outlet. The alignment of it was modified slightly so that it's angled from the road. It's not perpendicular to the road. And
Is
it
that-
actually
is
gives
that
it.
separate?
Period.
Do we have to make a motion to approve this herbicide, or just,
We can.
I mean, we're okay with it, it's a good plan, but,
Go for it.
oh, let's make a motion to approve the herbicide application in the, next to the restoration area.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
So moved. Okay, so we don't have a sketch, but Jay has photos, which are better. Okay. This is for Jim to talk to us about.
So this is what it was supposed to look like.
Well, no, this is the Glendale Street.
Oh,
yeah.
It's on the
Yeah.
smaller set of plan. This
We
was
should
the-
just leave that away.
Yeah, I don't need to do
Those
that.
were from the amended order of conditions.
Oh, I thought that
For
was
just
the
that.
pipe that we were,
No way.
What's this? You?
Or is that from yours?
That's fine.
Okay.
yeah.
You want to stand up and go bring it in class?
Now,
This is West Street heading toward Northampton Street. This way the intersection is here. There's a storm drain that discharges into this swale. Supposed to be water quality swale to dissipate the flow before it enters the brook.
And the wall and everything is down.
Yes.
Well, this is the
This is
end of
the
the
wall
wall.
I see the wall,
Dark
okay,
line.
I get you.
When we put this in, we angled this pipe more because this was pretty much just shooting straight into the side of the swale, and not that this
So this is
a steep
angled even though
side,
it's hard to see further.
but it comes out more or less perpendicular to the
to the road, yeah.
to the swale to try to facilitate the flow along the swale instead of beating against it.
Jim, can you reference a station number on West Street so that we can put it in the minutes?
112.
Alright. So we're just talking about the actual, the
So-
culvert crossing of the road into the swale has been,
It's already been,
We modified it
the
to
alignment was modified during construction.
lessen the impact of the flow against the back of the swale. But now we're looking at the amount of, it's not so much the amount of flow, but it's the potential for the banks of the swale to erode. during.
All the water from all this area comes down to that one point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We had, obviously, we haven't finished the shoulders here, and the curb's not in, and the most recent stuff had water coming over the bank and down the slope.
Can you
We
give me
did
that station again? Sorry.
112,
112.
between 112 and 113.
Okay.
So we had some erosion on the slope leading down to the swale, which we armored with some heavy riprap. But what we would like to do is to armor half of this swale with more riprap. At least, well, the state would like to see it on both sides of the swale. At least up to this
This is,
intermediate
so this
check
guy
dam.
comes up this way.
There's a
That's
check
source
dam in
water.
the middle of the swale. So if we can armor
Connect like
Right.
that.
this to keep it from eroding, and then once it gets down, halfway down the swale, the velocities and everything will dissipate somewhat. So we'll still have at least half of the swale vegetated. That's the proposal we're asking for.
So my question for the engineers are, how does that relate to stormwater management standards and compliance? And then also, didn't we also talk about wanting to riprap the remaining
Yeah.
embankment instead of vegetating it? And that is within the riverfront area of Hannah Brook, so we need to, now that I have the file there, I need to revisit how that plays into riverfront area and how that was all worked out before, just because it is such a big resource-heavy project.
I was less concerned with that, but the state field engineer is concerned that we're gonna get a significant rainfall events like we had last week that's gonna go right over the berm. Because it's just a Cape Cod berm. Once you put the top on it, there's only 4 inches of reveal in the back. Since this is gonna be the low point in the road from both directions, he's worried about going over and running down the slope, eroding the side slope of the road. I was thinking, see if I could find the cross sections here. I don't think we've got cross sections in this set, but
If there's an update, if there's an
There's a
updated
profile, but-
PDF that you can send, or have Victoria send,
yeah.
that'd be fine, just send it to the conservation.
Well, was the pre-project drainage along there? Was it just like country drainage, basically, or were there catch basins?
No, there's
There were
catch basins all over.
There's a direct discharge to Hannah Brook,
Oh, okay.
but that
Those are
is
existing.
outside.
Those were
The project
existing.
limits.
They were there before. We left them in place. And one of the- rather than ripping out one catch basin and putting a new one in, we eliminated this. We didn't run this line. We put, this one's not in. We moved it up here, closer to the, because that, we already had 2 right over the culvert.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no sense throwing in a new one in 10 feet away. But basically everything comes down. Some of the lateral runs down the shoulder and discharges over here on the upstream side of the Hannah. But the road, West Street itself, discharges here.
So, does that change the way that swale would be considered under stormwater management? If it,
I could, I guess
well,
How
would be
are-
significant?
so was that swale, contributing to the calculations for TSS removal and everything like that?
Probably just calling it a water quality swale.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very long.
Yeah.
Is it maybe 50 feet long, 75 feet long total? If we hadn't had that rain last week, we probably wouldn't be as concerned. It really did a job on that shoulder last week. So what we don't want is to go through and vegetate this slope and have another one of those come by before it really gets good and socked in with vegetation and have it erode. Then we're back to square one trying to do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the other thing to bring up is was it during that major rain event? I think it was that I just driving by, I noticed that there was a bit of a washout and that part of the silt fence had been overtopped, but it was not I didn't inspect the entire site, and meeting out there and looking at this area, there's another area on the opposite side of the silt fence where material had been deposited. The silt fence had been overtopped at some point during that storm, and that needed to be, so they had someone, the contractor had someone out there addressing the spot that I had identified the next morning. But there's this other area that still needs to be.
Yeah, they cleaned
the
some of it up by
deposit
hand,
material.
but they need to, there's still more there that
Okay.
needs to be raked up,
Okay. So that
down
still
to
needs to be
bare
done.
organic soil.
Do you have engineering support from DOT other than field observation stuff?
Not much.
I guess I was wondering if they've had experience with those TRM things that I mentioned during the other hearing.
I haven't seen that. If you've got some literature on it, if you could forward it to me, I'll bring it up to them.
Yeah.
Could email
If that's,
Victoria Strange.
I'd just as soon use that in the swale if it works,
Mm-hmm.
versus boulders, riprap.
Yeah, I mean, we use it on dams a lot, but not in areas where it's gonna flow, frequently, so I guess I don't know,
Okay.
Just TRM stuff.
What's it made out of?
turf reinforcement mat. It's,
Oh, is that like the geoweb? Or is
No.
that something else?
It's, I think it's probably propylene, and it's almost like a felt, I think. It's pretty fine, you put down the loam and then seed and then put these on top and the grass grows through it
Oh, all right.
and binds to it. And they're supposed to last, 20, 30 years or whatever. Not as long as riprap, but but they're, the manufacturers say they're good for, slopes and swales and everything like that.
Oh, I gotta imagine that's gonna be a little bit cheaper than hauling in 10-wheeler loads of riprap.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I can send you some literature and
Let's do that.
Okay.
So our next meeting's September 8th.
Okay.
And I guess at this point there are too many unanswered questions that we need to go back and double check just to make sure that we're on the right side of the regulations.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll do that between now and sometime next week so that there's some time to
Yep.
to give you the information that you asked for, or that we offered up.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd be, happy with that if that's the alternative.
So what,
So it's you.
Yeah.
Dan's gonna send email on turf reinforcement mats.
yep. We'll do that.
And Jim, if you would be so kind as to stick around for another discussion.
Okay.
I think the next ones are gonna go through pretty quickly. Any success, is there any further discussion on that part, the intersection reconstruction? Okay. 8 Old Stagecoach Road.
did you have anything? Or did you, I thought you were having
sorry.
It's okay. Out of the corner of our eye as we see
Yeah, we
things.
see moving. Just yours, Jay.
Deep
Just
file
let me
number
search,
one.
I'm
Jay's
carrying
checking
around
that.
for
Yeah.
backlight.
So it's yours.
It's fine
It's
now.
yours for now. File number 151277, 8 Old Stagecoach Road, the La Pointe tight tank installation.
Mark Reed did get me an email address, and I just only recently
Okay.
emailed them,
Great.
asking them to come in and get a certificate of compliance.
Okay.
Great. All right, Cottage Street Apartments, formerly Nashwanik Mills, 15 Cottage Street, Arch Street Development. We just signed the amended order.
There, you've got that bank rip wrap, looks like they hydro sprayed it this week, the area that was eroding, where the water was coming in, so that looks like it's really stable at this point.
Great.
When did we sign that?
Last
Oh,
meeting.
no, I'm sorry, we need to sign that right now. So this was issued at the last meeting. So that's why there's only one person here. What?
She looked at the sign on the public violence act this week.
Okay. So, this is the amended order of conditions, and I'd like you to put in the minute that amending the order does not extend the order, but that this one, because of the Permit Extension Act, is valid. I have to correct the date on the agenda. It's valid through March 14th, 2018.
March 14th, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Alright.
Jay, have you ever had like the tip of your pen break off and hit the person sitting next to you in the eye when you're doing that?
No.
Okay.
Electronics and papers,
Where my-
Oh, because,
safety glasses.
order.
All right, so date of issuance is... We'll do after. Next, National Pond Promenade Park. Or no updates.
Update that we know of.
Still on hold?
They're working out whether with the Office of Dam Safety, if what they're proposing is acceptable, or what they need to do, basically. Connecticut River Oxbow Boating Access Facility and Parking Lot. I contacted Terry Smith, and when things settle down this fall, they'll submit a request for certificate of compliance.
Terry Smith.
Terry Smith is the Office of
Fishing and boating access.
Fishing and Boating Access. Thank you.
T-E-R-R-Y.
Terry SMITH.
Thanks. Office of what? Voting access?
That
Off of the fishing and boating access.
It's part of fishing game.
Yeah, okay.
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 All right, so moving on to general business, there are no additional updates regarding Shared Conservation Commission agent. Next item, recurring erosion along Manhan Rail Trail within 100 foot buffer zone of Lower Mill Pond. Has anyone gone out there to take a look at what would be necessary to really deal with that, Jim?
I've looked at it. My thought is to just dump some, the most easiest, probably the most effective way without causing any more disturbances, just dump some riprap over the rail, fill the swale.
Do you think that would actually just create more weight on top of the soil that will push more soil? I mean, is it undermining or is it?
No,
what's
it's just,
happening?
it's kind of a low point in the trail,
Yeah,
and there's two spots parallel and side by side,
okay.
and
So it just pours over the edge of
It
the
just
trail, and the
goes-
waterfall.
Yeah.
we
The
repaired
riprap
that
was there
some
to
years
slow it
ago
down.
and restarted it, and then it didn't last that long, so.
So none of us having been around when the rail trail was permitted and built, is there anything like an O&M plan that you know of? So,
I mean, it's gonna wash in that spot.
It hasn't
Forever.
changed much, even though we had some pretty heavy
Yeah.
rains. It really had. I thought it would kind of creep back 3-4 inches, and it really hasn't. But it's not a good solution. It's not a good situation.
no, I mean, we certainly wouldn't want to see it undermine the
Correct. And then there'll be a bigger.
Yeah.
much bigger problem. So, that's something that would require filing.
Right. It's within.
And I don't know if that would be the Rail Trail Committee or Friends of the
Hope
Rail
so.
Trail. Should we have grabbed Barb when she was down
Right,
here?
yeah.
Oh, that's Barb?
I think so.
Yeah, it was.
So.
Dan had brought up something during a meeting that you were not in attendance about a generic RDA for like the trail for maintenance, that like an open RDA or something like that. I'm not sure what the right term is.
I think that's something the city could do citywide for maintenance projects, to do a order of conditions.
The generic
The
NOI.
generic
Generic
NOI,
NOI, something like that.
to
So
cover
we're
this
not
kind of stuff.
making him jump through all these
For
hoops to
buffer
fix a
zone
little
stuff.
tiny,
Yeah.
hole.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that, we can talk about that once I look into it more.
Okay.
It's been, those were really popular 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is they're great for buffer zone work, but they're not meant to be used for
Right.
work in a resource area proper. So if you have to go in and fix a culvert, it's not
Yeah.
to fix the culvert, it's to fix the eroded sidewalk next to the
Yeah.
culvert. But for something like this, a generic NOI would be appropriate.
Right. I searched
It's an
on
option.
the internet a little bit, but I didn't really see anything pop up. It was pretty vague.
I think that's because it never really,
Yeah.
it never really took
Stuck.
off.
Yeah.
So for us to just go in and dump a bucket load of rock over the rail and kind of place it, just push it around a little bit to stabilize it, is that something that's going to require the filing?
I mean, it's in the 100-foot buffer zone, so yes. But it could be a pretty
Might get
simple
worse
filing.
before I file it.
What's your retirement?
I said it might get worse before I get around to filing it. Once somebody else tackles it.
Well, I mean, that's something to bring up with potentially with the rail, sorry, because they keep kicking in, with the rail trail committee. Or Friends of the Rail Trail, I don't know how that group works, but.
You could have a pile of rocks and vandals could take them and throw them in the holes.
Kids put them in.
Saturday.
How about-
How about we stop talking now?
How about if we glommed on to the next permit for the, behind the mills?
Sure.
Phase 2 is gonna be starting.
That's between you and Jessica.
Yeah.
That's fine.
When will it be starting?
Design is underway. I think they're going out to bid this fall for a spring start.
Okay. So, I mean, that is up to you guys. How you manage that is up to you guys.
If it's an RDA for this work, I think, that's something that's pretty easy, but if
It
they're
is.
going to an notice of intent,
That's more
I
involved.
just don't have the time for that.
No, and I don't think this would qualify for a notice of intent.
I don't think so either.
You're in the 100-foot buffer zone, but you're further than 50 feet
Yeah.
from the pond.
Mm.
the footprint of the
Square
work
footage is
itself
very
is
small.
very small.
Yeah.
You're not really altering anything, you're just maintaining
No.
it.
Right, so I think that'd be one of the easier ones you'd have to
Okay.
could check it off. All right, on that, now we're getting to the meat of why I think everyone is. Culvert work adjacent to 398 East Street. So,
I have two neighbors here, so.
Thank you.
they can Fill in on the details and history.
okay. All
For the record, it
right.
wasn't the DPW.
No, we understand it was the DPW that perhaps the DPW crews observed some activity as well. And just to be frank, we have, as a commission, we have very limited resources. And this is similar to another situation where the advice from DEP in Springfield was that the burden of going after the property owner would basically be beyond our abilities right now. Slightly different case. Unfortunately, I have a feeling if I had the conversation with David Fallis, the same suggestion would come up. And in the other case, he suggested that we, and I'm not suggesting I'm interested in this at all. He suggested that we, since the property owner was so concerned, property owner being the same property owner we're talking about now, that the property owner was so concerned that we proceed with a friendly enforcement order requiring that he restore the impacted area. I don't think that's, I don't see anything friendly about that in any way, shape, or form. It puts the burden on the person who's, or the entity that's been damaged, not the cause of it. In that case, we're talking about a property that was developed legally and lawfully at the time, and that has had no material changes, so that there's been, it's not like there was a problem with water pooling in that corner and that they cut the curb and allowed the water to go over. That the curb cut was part of the original design. Here, it's a willful action that caused the problem. So, I guess I'm just at a loss for how we could physically staff this.
Jim, do you know why they were working in that area?
No clue. I don't know. I know he dig safed it, but I don't know why.
And was that within the roadway right of way, or was that on private property?
Well, it looks like
Or a
some of it
little
was
both.
within the right of way.
And was the culvert physically touched, or was it the area leading up to?
I just viewed it from the car driving by.
I don't think the culvert was touched, no, I just did an area leading up to it.
Okay. So, the neighbors, hi, thank you for coming in. I guess, were you aware when it was happening that was Mr. Gall there? Or was it just his crews? Were you aware of what was happening, or were you not aware until after the fact?
Well, I live at 397 East Street, and
What's your name for the record?
my name is Ron Glidden, 397 East Street. And when you went on vacation, I don't know what timeline that was, but shortly after that, a couple of days after you left, he was up with a backhoe. And then you had mentioned before you left that something was, a lot of sand was coming down in that area. And then Bernie was up with his backhoes on the
higher part?
not on the high part, but right past that greenhouse, right
On the
there.
roadside?
He was right up there working.
Like
He had his
2 feet from the
backhoes
road
up
or
there.
50 feet from the road?
About 50 feet, but after I saw you folks, he came down with a backhoe, probably within, real close to that, to that area.
Okay.
And then when the rains came, that's when it just deposited all the sand back
So
there.
when roughly was that? What month?
If you can give me a day when you left, yeah, it was,
Okay.
yeah, it was probably mid-July.
I went out there on
But Joe-
7/24 with John,
Okay.
which was before
Okay.
that next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
But there was problems occurring approximately a month before that.
Oh, the sedimentation started mid-June?
Would you
that-
say?
Yeah,
Because you
we-
told me.
I think it's sedimentation been going on for years.
But I mean, the
Well-
heavy, the 4 inches of sand that we got was just recently.
Yeah, I think that mostly was from that culvert work, or above the culvert.
Okay.
But there is definitely sedimentation coming down in the stream from above.
Okay.
Ron took Bill and I up there the other day, and you could all kinds of stuff, all piles of gravel everywhere, and you can see some wetlands have been destroyed. We had one little patch of wetland left, and that was occupied by a doe.
Oh.
Yeah, so,
All right. So you're saying that there's the stream, which is most likely a jurisdictional stream
yeah.
under the Wetlands Protection Act. That's another tricky spot.
I mean, it's all tied in. And that's
It's true. I'm sorry. I'm
It's a
interrupting.
temporary, it's not considered a full stream.
Intermittent stream, but under the Wetlands Protection Act, in order for the stream to be a jurisdictional intermittent stream, it has to originate from another wetland resource area, like a pond or a larger vegetated wetland, or flow through an area that is 50% or more dominant wetland vegetation before it becomes jurisdictional. So you could have a drainage that doesn't have any wetland vegetation along it, and it's not a jurisdictional stream under these regulations. It's just how the regulations are written, until it intersects with that other jurisdictional resource area. And then from that point down until wherever it goes, it's jurisdictional. So it's just,
Meaning that we have, that it's in our control, is that what you're saying when you
once
say
it,
jurisdictional?
if it's jurisdictional, it's within the commission's authority to deal with it. If it's not within Wetlands Protection Act jurisdiction, it's not, unless the overall activity qualifies under the stormwater ordinance, which is separate from wetlands and the Wetlands Protection Act entirely. It's a city ordinance only. So, Mr. Glidden, your property, this is on the same side of the road as the activity?
Correct.
So, would I be able to come out and see for myself
Oh,
what
absolutely.
time is convenient?
You're on the
Would-
downstream, you're on the downstream side of the culvert, though, right?
You're on
So
the
it's the
down-
opposite side of the,
Yeah,
And-
correct, I misunderstood.
it's on the opposite
Oh,
side.
it's okay.
So, yes, so.
Well, it would still be helpful because
Yeah.
there's nowhere to park there. And you folks are, what is your location?
I'm Bill Burgard, 395 East Street,
So,
across from
Downstream.
okay.
Downstream.
And I'm originally saw the whole process of this. When I moved there in 1978 in December, it was a meandering stream.
Mhm.
Meandering means water coming down,
Mhm.
the corner slows water off. And then after this process of dealing with McDonald's, when Bernard Gall made the meandering stream a straight stream and
Mhm.
riprap it. And put
That's the other
trees-
property we
Trees
have.
around it, and put the pine trees. The remainder of that material came over there, and this meandering stream became a straight ditch with riprap, with the trees, and now where the trees are getting flooded, the pine trees, which are now 25 feet high, and they're starting to fall over from the water that's spreading, that's no longer stays in the channel.
Okay.
And since
I'm assuming that's the area.
the pins were illegally put in the wrong place, so what happened was, I didn't know it was on my property, I was told that this is not my property. So they added more culvert there and made the meandering stream. And what happened is, no, I wouldn't let them do that. So I was told, I was on the Conservation Commission, how far back did records go? And I was told this has nothing to do, this intermittent stream has nothing to do with Conservation Commission. So it's until John Bayer's approach to say, we have damage here, we have to do
Okay.
something about it. And so, and I'm responsible right now for some, with the pin relocated, and I had it surveyed where it probably belongs. Part of that stream is on my property. When the culvert was, originally, the water would come to the culvert, drop down, and go through this riprap area. Now it has filled up to the height of the top of the culvert, and it's all silt, and I have to dig it out, or otherwise you or somebody has to open the culvert up to let the water run through. And am I responsible for that, or who is responsible? It's intermittent, so it's on
The
my
owner of the
property. I'm
culvert.
responsible for that, am I correct? It's my business to keep that open, and
I mean,
I guess,
it's the city's culvert, isn't it, Jim?
I'm assuming.
Theoretically, it would be the city's culvert.
It's been a long time since I've seen the downstream side on your side of the road. But if it goes under East Street, it's our culvert, yeah.
So Jim, could you and I schedule a site visit?
Yep.
Since, I mean, and everyone else is welcome too. I know other people have already made the time to go see it, and I just haven't been able to, so. Is there a particular evening that's better?
Just
Anytime.
You name the time.
Is there a good number to reach you?
320-3914.
Area code 413?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Or is email better?
No,
That's better? Okay. So I will coordinate with you and you can,
Just after the last rain, I've never seen it like it. I mean, I can appreciate it was a lot of rain, but it never
only
has
a
that.
5-year storm.
It never has
Yeah.
that separated. There was probably 25 feet of water on
Okay.
that side, and
Okay.
it was on the fence line.
Okay.
well, Ron, also, when that all this stuff was going on across the street, you had to put gravel across your driveway to keep the water from coming into your
Yeah,
driveway.
in fact, all that sand was coming right down the driveway, and I asked Bernie to clean it up.
Take it back?
And he did it.
Yeah.
Did.
Yeah, he was
Came
very,
right
very
That was
nice.
the amount of dirt.
Yeah.
One good deed for a year.
Then he put trap rock down so that didn't happen again, but now it's going over on the other side.
Okay. All right.
So what else would it be helpful for us to have? Maybe some aerial photos of what's
Yeah.
going up a mountain from a couple different years.
Yeah.
Um,
The most recent was,
it was
September of
2013.
last year.
Yeah.
That was the most recent.
Jay, where do you check aerials from? Is it historicaerials.com?
This
or
was,
is
no,
it
this was from
Google?
Google Earth, just
Okay.
going by the dates, and,
Some of them go back earlier.
yeah, it was not as clear
I
the
know, it
further I
starts to
went
look
back.
awful. Okay.
Have we checked DEP wetlands, the DEP wetlands layer, just to see if there's anything
I need to.
I didn't do
new
that,
there?
but I could look at that too.
Okay.
Mr. Bader, you have some people in your organization that are good making GIS maps, right?
They're already busy. They're already busy.
All right.
I might pull Bernie Gall myself and get a hole out there and make a channel. The thing is, the brook runs over there, and it's all filled up with vegetation now. It's gonna be hard to work it.
In the 70s, that was subdivided as a road going right up from the culvert.
That
So
was
I
what
think it was
Jessica-
rough, it was even roughed in as a road. And then so
when they
that
grew up.
roughed in road kind of developed into the channel that exists today.
Wow.
The subdivision never got built.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's an approved subdivision on file, on record,
No, it
theoretically.
lapsed long
It
ago.
lapsed long ago,
Yeah.
so,
Well, I think the lots are still on file, but
The lots are.
the
Yeah.
subdivision is constructing a
It's
road.
actually the road is
It's
the
gonna-
main road.
that would mean that there's no grandfathering under the stormwater ordinance, correct?
Right.
So, depending on what we find, what we can document, that might be the means of putting a stop to the erosion and sedimentation that's impacting, at least stopping it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Jim and I will find a date within the next week to, are you going away this weekend? Are you going away this weekend? Me neither. So, perhaps we could find an hour or so this weekend to, at least so
Just
I.
put it out in an email
Yeah.
and I'll see if I can
Okay.
make it there.
That's what we'll aim for. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming and for your patience, and I'll see some of you this weekend, I imagine.
I'm late for my other meeting,
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
rail trail.
Oh, good, can you ask them about, can you ask them about the washout?
Yeah, how they can fix it for us?
That's what we were harassing Jim about. Just tell him.
That's what it looks like. Report back to us.
Right behind the old
Talk to
Okay,
you
yeah,
about this
if I get the
weekend.
information. Yeah.
It's right down from the, right behind
Okay,
the
so moving on,
Yeah.
meeting minutes
Not
approval,
far down
August
from the park.
11th, 2014. Would anyone care to make a motion?
Yeah. All
I
right.
didn't care.
Would anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from August, whatever it was. 11.
All those in favor? So moved.
Yeah. I'm not
Well, I
pulling.
get the call out. just
Not
like-
quite.
Not yet.
Okay, all right, so there being no other business to discuss?
Nope.
Do we have any correspondence? None. None. It's on there, but we have none waiting for us.
Thank you for letting me know there was none.
You're welcome. Dude, she's gonna put it.
She totally is. So he's got crazy eyes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.